Hello and welcome to Todd Rolls Dice, where it's time to go for an all-inclusive buffet with our next Scourge of Ghyran faction update. That's right, grub's up, it's Ogor Mawtribes, although they've misspelled Ogre. Lewis has our lore drop. I've listened to a couple of these now, actually the few over the weekend, the couple of Chaos ones. I think I've heard one of Adam's and two of Lydia's, and they're pretty good. They're nice little fun extras, a little bit of additional information for this stuff. This is a nice event. I like how they're presenting it, I like how they're doing it with the extras, and then actually changing up things and giving you more options. So far, while I was getting a bit bored of the Grotman stuff, we're coming into the last... what are we, probably 6 or 7 factions left? I'm really enjoying this. But let's focus on today's update for the Ogor Mawtribes. We're here for the rules, of course, and you will notice a culinary theme through most of today's Scourge of Ghyran update. Particularly in the battle formations, Morpath Menaces and Greedy Eaters. The first are always hungry and fixated on their next meal, so they can move during your opponent's charge phase, including into combat. Okay. Table for 5, Mr. Gut Smasher. Meanwhile, the other lot prefer to start their meal immediately after killing it. Meat's better when it's warm, to regain their strength. Oh god. Greedy Eaters have a habit of getting back up when you think they're dead. Right, so that rule isn't going to be like it sounds, it's going to be bringing units back then, which is strong. There's no two ways around it. It's a strong army rule. What's in a name? Well, if it's a big name, sometimes quite a lot. There are 3 new Ogre honorifics in this update, all of which involve getting stuck in, sometimes into an enemy unit, sometimes into lunch, and sometimes both. Gutslugger is pretty handy in a prolonged combat/dining experience, granting a bonus to hit when you haven't charged. Mage Swallower doesn't involve eating wizards, but some wizards did once get eaten, which is why this ogre can worsen enemy ward saves. We're starting to see that popping up quite a bit as well. Before the battle, the Mega Gnoblar, oh god no, that's an unfortunate nickname if ever I heard one, chooses a unit type, infantry, cavalry, monster and so on, as its chosen meal. Every time they destroy/eat such a unit, they gain an attack. How many Mega Gargants can an ogre eat? Probably none. I reckon the ogre will get squashed. But they all sound interesting. Before we move on to the next bit, these models, compared to, like, we've just done a new Idoneth Deepkin model reveal, that'll probably be the last video that dropped. It's such a cool dynamic pose, just flowing and the water effects and things, really cool. You compare that to these that are probably, if not old world models originally, then they're first edition Age of Sigmar models. They're very stoic, very blocky. I think Mawtribes need a bit of love, GW. The War Scrolls updates for the Ogor Mawtribes are for the 2 war machines, the Ironblaster and the Gnoblar Scraplauncher. The former is almost entirely unsuited to the overgrown forests of Ghyran, unless, of course, you really want to destroy a tree. Its enterprising crew have taken to packing a load of sharp stuff into the barrel, which will really make a mess of infantry, cavalry, monsters and shrubberies.
We want a shrubbery! A what?
Gnoblar scrappers have taken to flinging poisonous fungi, blood wasp nests and other local biohazards at the foe. The less armoured they are, the more chance something unpleasant will happen. Okay, I'm intrigued. From today's hefty big guys who smell pretty awful to, well, hefty big guys who smell even worse tomorrow. Hear that buzzing sound? Nurgle. Tomorrow then? And big Nurgle. Okay, that could be fun. Faction rules. Ogor Mawtribes are battle formations. Morpath Menaces. Once per turn army enemy charge phase ability. Fixated on feeding. Declare pick a friendly ogre infantry unit that is not in combat to be the target. Effect, roll a dice. On a 3-up, the target can move a number of inches equal to the roll. It can move through the combat ranges of enemy units and can end that move in combat. If it does so, the unit has charged. Keywords core, move, charge. That might just be the best counter-charge mechanic that I have seen in this Scourge of Ghyran, like the whole series. So far, obviously things can change. I really like that. I like that it is not guaranteed to go off. I also like that going off on a 3+ on a D6 means that if it goes off, you get a decent amount of movement and you can move through combat you can block off units, you can tie up other... Yeah, I like that. I think that's really good. Greedy Eaters. Once per turn army, end of any turn, post-prandial warfare. Declare pick up to D3 friendly ogre infantry units that were in combat with an enemy unit when it was destroyed this turn to be the targets. Effect: return 1 model to each target unit. That's a nice heal. It's capped off at 3. You can average at 2. But the stipulation of they have to have been in combat with an enemy unit that was destroyed that turn. It's not always going to go off, but it's quite a nice heal when it does. And I suppose rules like that, you're going to shift your play to be 2-on-1 trying to trigger these things. Yeah, that's quite nice too. It's not going to go off all the time, but you're probably going to be chewing through things, pun intended, and you're going to get some use out of that as well. Yeah, 2 strong battle formations to start with. Big names. So these are enhancements that can only be given to heroes. We have 2 passive and then 1 deployment phase. So first passive, the 2 passives are combat passives. Gut Slugger. Effect: add 1 to hit rolls for this unit's combat attacks if it did not charge in the same turn. So it just gives you a little bit of extra punch if you're charged. It's nice. I don't know what their other ones are, but there's a use for it, absolutely. It's not going to set the world alight though, is it? Our second combat passive, Mage Swallower. Effect: subtract 1 from ward rolls for enemy units while they are within 6 inches of this unit. That's the one that you take. 6-inch bubble of -1 to ward rolls. If you have 6 up wards, yeah, good luck. And our final one, it's a once per battle deployment phase ability, Mega Gnoblar. Effect: pick one of the following keywords: infantry, cavalry, monster, war machine, and beast. For the rest of the battle, each time any damage points are allocated to an enemy unit with that keyword by this unit's combat attacks, and that unit is destroyed in the same turn, add 1 to the attacks characteristic of this unit's melee weapons. The effect is cumulative, so you can stack quite a few extra attacks if you get lucky. You'd have to get very lucky to get a real buff on it, but extra attacks is always quite nice. Put that on a big hitty hero who is going to be killing some of these things. Send him up the bod laughing. And our first unit of the day, new war scroll for the Ironblaster. 9-inch move with a 4-up save, 9 health, 2 control. Ranged weapons, the Ironblaster cannon. 18-inch range, 2 attacks, hits on 4s, wounds on 2s, 2 rend, 5 damage. It's not bad. Melee weapons, we have the Clubber, 2 attacks, hits on 4s, wounds on 2s, 1 rend, 2 damage. And then the Rhinox's Sharp Horns. Anti-charge, +1 rend, and companion. Anti-charge is nice, especially on a war machine actually. 3 attacks, hits on 4s, wounds on 2s, 1 rend, D3 damage. 1 ability, once per turn army, your shooting phase, Shrapnel Blast. Effect: for the rest of the phase, add 1 to the attacks characteristics of this unit's ranged weapons, and this unit's ranged weapons have crit 2 hits. Interesting that crit 2 hits is added. I suppose you are choosing a Shrapnel Blast, or you're choosing... Well no, you'd always take the Shrapnel Blast. Okay, I'm a little... Yeah, it's nice. I suppose it just means that you only get that bonus when it's your shooting phase, is what they're doing there. Okay, yeah, it's nice. Keywords: War Machine, Destruction, Ogor Mawtribes, Ogre, Rhinox, and Gutbusters. And that unit is 170 points, Regiment Options, War Machine. Okay, let's have a look at the faction pack, see what we think between the two. So, standard faction pack, Ironblaster, 9-inch move, 4-up save, 9 health, 2 control, same there. Range weapons, we have 2 options. First one is Ironblaster Cannon, big shot, 18-inch range, 2 attacks, hits on 4s, wounds on 2s, 2 rend, D3 +3 damage. And the Hail Shot, 12-inch range, 8 attacks, hits on 4s, wounds on 3s, 1 rend, 2 damage. That's quite a nice option. Melee weapons, Clubber, 2 attacks, hits on 4s, wounds on 2s, no rend, 2 damage. And the Rhinox Sharp Horns, 2 attacks, hits on 4s, wounds on 2s, 1 rend, D3 damage, companion. Our ability is a shooting passive lethal payload. Effect: each time this unit uses a shoot ability, pick either the Big Shot or the Hail Shot weapon characteristics, or all the attacks it makes with its Ironblaster cannon. Keywords: War Machine, Destruction, Ogor Mawtribes, Ogre, Rhinox, Gutbusters. That unit is 200 points. Again, we've got that. This was updated last February 2020. Oh, 2025. I thought it was 2023 for a second. I was like, we didn't have a 4th edition back then. What's going on? Okay. 200 points is expensive. Yeah, okay. That's... You lose options with the other War Scroll. It is cheaper. They're the same... They're trying to fill the same role, but I think they're also quite different. So base stats are the same. Melee weapons are pretty much the same. You gain a rend, basically. The ranged weapons, you lose 8 attacks at 1 rend, 2 damage. You gain 1, maybe 2 damage. Fixed at 5 damage on the Ghyran scroll instead of D3 plus 3. Bit of a sidestep. Oh, I mean, yeah, okay. So the Ghyran scroll is 30 points cheaper, and it all comes down to that ability. When you shoot in your phase with the Ghyran scroll, you gain crit 2 hits, which you also gain an extra attack. So 3 attacks, crit 2 hits, it's not guaranteed. When you do get a crit and you get your extras, nice. You could get some real damage through. If all 3 of your hits go through, you're probably going to wound on a 2-up. You might get 5 to 10 damage through, depending on what you're shooting against. Whereas on the other one, I'm just thinking hail shot, you're probably getting that damage. I think it's a downgrade. I think losing hail shot, if the Ironblaster cannon was, say, 4 attacks, same stats everywhere else, but 4 attacks, and then crit 2 hits, and it was just a baked in 4 attacks, I think you've got a good option there. But losing hail shot is losing, alright, short range, less damage, but 8 attacks, hitting 4s, wounding 3s is nice against infantry. It's changing the role of the Ironblaster to make it solely about hero hunting and like big monsters and things, trying to get big damage through. But losing an option that gives you so many attacks takes away a lot of variety for this unit. Yeah, okay. Same kind of role, but a very different way of going about it. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Our second unit is the Gnoblar Scraplauncher. So we have the same base stats, 9-inch move, 4-up save, 9 health, 2 control. Range weapons, the Scraplauncher is crit 2 hits, 18-inch range, 12 attacks. Wow. Hits on 4s, wounds on 2s, 1 rend, 1 damage. Lots of attacks, not much damage. Melee weapons, Rhinox, Sharp Horns, and Crude weapons, anti-charge plus 1 rend, companion. Nice. 4 attacks, hits on 4s, wounds on 2s, 1 rend, D3 damage. Very similar to the Rhinox Horns on the Ironblaster. But not bad. I am a bit of a fan of anti-charge. Especially on something that you probably want to position it and try and not have it being charged. So that's not bad. Our one ability is an once per turn army, any shooting phase ability. Scrap away. Declare, pick an enemy unit that has had damage points allocated to it this phase by this unit shooting attacks to be the target. So you've got to have got some damage through. Effect, roll a dice. If the dice equals or exceeds the target's save characteristic, halve the target's move characteristic until the start of your next turn. In addition, on a 5-up, until the start of your next turn, subtract 1 from the number of dice rolled when making charge rolls for the target to a minimum of 1. That's not bad. Okay, so the 1 damage thing is counteracted by that ability, because if you're just getting damage through, you don't have to kill. Equals or exceeds. So, yeah, not so great against Stormcast. It's got a chance, but not so great against Stormcast. But against lightly armoured stuff and horde armies, that could be nice. That could be very nice. And knocking a dice off, probably halving most units' charge rolls if you get a 5 or a 6. Yeah, that's very nice. Keywords War Machine, Destruction, Ogor Mawtribes, Rhinox. And that unit is 150 points, Regiment Options, War Machine. I don't think that's bad for 150 points. And our standard faction pack rules, Gnoblar, Scraplauncher, 9-inch move, 4-up save, 9 health, 2 control, all the same there. Ranged weapons, pieces of old scrap, 24-inch range, 3d6 attacks. Hits on 4s, wounds on 4s, no rend, 1 damage, anti-infantry plus 1 rend, crit auto wound. They're nice. They're nice abilities for that one. Melee weapons, scrappers, stabbers, 7 attacks, hits on 5s, wounds on 5s, 1 damage. Yeah, I don't think 7 attacks is going to save you there. And Rhinox Sharp Horns, 2 attacks, hits on 4s, wounds on 2s, 1 rend, D3 damage, companion. 2 shoot abilities. So first one, your shooting phase, load it up. Effect, If this unit is within the combat range of any friendly Gnoblar's unit, this unit's shooting attacks score critical hits on unmodified hit rolls of 5 up until the start of your next turn. So if you keep a unit of Gnoblars close, you're critting on 5, so auto wounding on 5s and 6s. That's not bad. Our next shooting phase ability, Reign of Scrap. Declare pick an enemy unit that had any models slain this turn by this unit's shooting attacks to be the target. Effect: subtract 1 from hit rolls for the target's attacks for the rest of the turn. That's not bad either. Keywords War Machine, Destruction, Ogor Mawtribes, and Rhinox. That unit is 160 points. So this is much more like the normal differences between the Ghyran and the older scrolls. I think there's a case for both. I quite like 12 attacks. Against 3d6, 12 attacks is probably better. You're wounding on 2s instead of 4s, which is really good. You've got rend baked in, so it doesn't matter what you're shooting against. Crit 2 hits instead of crit auto wound. Crit auto wound on a 5 up, that's quite nice, but it's not guaranteed, so crit 2 hits, I would argue crit auto wound and crit 2 hits are very similar. 2 extra hits is nice, and you'll be wounding on 2s, whereas crit auto wound, it just gets the wound through. But you're still only 1 damage. You've got to roll a lot of crits to get those auto wounds through. I like the abilities of the standard faction war scroll. I quite like Scrap Away as well. But these are built to do different things. One is to slow down enemy units and enemy charges and protect this machine. The other one is just to annoy things and -1 to hit rolls on any target you want within 24 inches. As long as you get 1 point of damage through, that can really weaken a target for the rest of your army to pile in on. I think that's tougher. In fact, I think that's near impossible to pick a difference. It depends what you're going into and how you want to play. Whereas I just think the Ironblaster doesn't really hit the mark, but the Scraplauncher could be really nice. Or you could take the standard war scroll that you've been using for the last however long, 12 months, whatever, and you're still probably going to do okay with it. It's worse in melee. You probably don't want it in melee anyway. The glow up on melee is really nice. You're losing 7 attacks, hit on 5, wound on 5, 1 damage, but you're gaining an extra 2 on the more powerful. Still D3 damage, so you're probably not going to get a huge amount of damage through, but you're probably not going to get a lot of damage through on hit on 5, wound on 5. And it's only 1 damage. So yeah, I think that both Scraplauncher war scrolls have really good benefits. I'm just not sold on the Ironblaster. I quite like these. Heroic traits are pretty good. I really like the battle formations. I probably prefer Morpath Menaces, but it's just because it's a fun little thing to do out of your turn that could really ruin somebody's day in their charge phase. And I'm guessing Ogre infantry units are pretty beefy. Yeah, I like this. On the whole, I like this. You need to make a choice with a Scraplauncher. If you're going to take a Scraplauncher, which one do you take? And the Ghyran one being cheaper helps. And I think it has all of the right bits to make it a better choice over the other one. It depends how good you are at rolling 3d6. I would personally take 12 attacks over 3d6. But if you pop in 18 every time, that's a big difference. Yeah, I like this. This is a really nice War Machine scroll, I think. I'm not sold on the Ironblaster, as I say. The rest of it, I think this is really good. I think this is quite a nice update. But Ogor Mawtribes players, let me know what you think in the comments. That's more important, because you're the people that are actually playing this and have experience with this. So let me know. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.